And all those.
Unless you get the call, you can't continue talking. I'm calling David Seymour.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Didn't expect to hear that. Mr. Chair, it's been quite a long time, but after almost 2 decades, it's nice to see a thawing in my trial separation with my Labor Party ancestors. And on this issue, we find common cause because, as I said earlier, it is a case study in bad lawmaking. All of the elements are there. You have the high-profile case that leads to a reaction where any lawmaking appears to be a solution. You have a solution that will erode our liberties and yet not seriously mitigate the harm, and at the end of the day, the politicians end up looking like they've done their job, done something, but the welfare of citizens has not been improved. Mr. Chair, there's a little bit of insight into why this may be. I am a recovering electrical engineer. And one of the things that our profession has done is produced Gordon Moore, named for, we did produce Gordon Moore, and he produced Moore's Law. And Moore's Law will tell you that approximately every 2 years, the total power available in terms of computer processing speed doubles. And that has meant a couple of things. It has given us some of the impetus for this bill. It has meant that hate speech can spread farther and faster than at any previous time in history. And that certainly scares people. But it also means that the remedies for hate speech and bullying are more sophisticated than they've ever been before. And we see those remedies coming from the very hosts of online intercourse, the Facebooks, the Ask FMs, whomever they may be, just as quickly as the problems emerge. So this is fundamentally a technological change, but the technological change has not only provided the problem, but also the remedy. And it's also opened up a larger and larger gap between an exponentially faster internet with more and more, a larger and larger velocity of transaction, and a government apparatus that, as Chris Farfoy pointed out, leaves you with 4 days before there can be any response. And we had an earlier speaker, in fact the first speaker in this stage, who obliquely alluded to a political party, not in this House, that has been involved in some scandal recently. And it's interesting she raised that question because, first of all, the individual involved is among the most litigious in New Zealand politics today. He was someone who actually would use and abuse this law, much as the Star Chamber was used and abused to silence his opponents. But also that entire scandal, if there's any mercy in the world, by tomorrow will have been fit into a 96-hour period, during which the whole time the approved agency would not have been able to make a useful response. That, Mr. Chair, is, funnily enough, the result of Moore's Law. There are physical underpinnings to these occurrences. And I've gone on before about why criminalisation cannot be supported. I have to say I am listening to some interference from over there, which reminds me of a blog post which I recently saw on a popular blog asking the question, is Tracy Martin the full quid? And that is the kind of posting that might well be silenced by this bill. So I return to subject, Mr. Chair. And so I have put forward a SOP on this bill that would make a very simple change that would put one of the most egregious, Mr. Chair,
David Seymour.
the most egregious and demonstrable offences that has been made possible by modern technology. And that is a new offence that I think we can all live with, because it will not spread beyond scope. It is easy to prove, it is easy to disprove, it is easy for the law to discover whether the offence has happened, and it is deserving of punishment. And that is simply that a person has made an intimate digital recording, with or without the consent of the recordee, and has then propagated it across the internet, propagated rapidly as you would expect in an age of increasing computer power. That is an offence. I don't think there's anyone in this House that would disagree that that should be an offence. And the supplementary order paper that I've put forward asks that that be put in its proper place in the Crimes Act, not by creating new offences, because that's why, Mr. Chair, this legislation and the episode that led to it is a perfect example of bad lawmaking. You had a high-profile incident. The agencies that were supposed to deal with it were incompetent and did not deal with it. The laws that existed that were supposed to be enforced were not enforced. And today we find ourselves, rather than addressing that problem, creating a new agency to be approved and new laws in order that the same problem can be targeted. And if you were a Martian who had recently landed on Earth, not thinking of anybody in particular, then of course one would think that is completely nuts. And so, Mr. Chair, I appeal to the House and the conscience and the sanity and those who want our profession to be well respected, to say that we should not, as Jacinda Ardern put quite eloquently, I thought, try to pass a law, be seen to do something, wring our hands and then wash them clean, but actually put the legislation and the public policy measures required in the place that they really deserve. And that is in the Crimes Act. That is creating a real crime, responding to the real technological change that we face, responding to something that is egregious, that is easy to demonstrate, that has been made possible by technological change. Put that in the Crimes Act to say that if you make an intimate digital recording of a person and propagate it across the internet or digitally without their consent, you have committed a crime. If that SOP was to be supported tonight, that would be this House's insurance against the possibility that this broader piece of bad lawmaking will not succeed, that sanity will prevail, that the integrity of the political profession will prevail, and that this House will vote down what will otherwise become, and I guarantee this, a textbook example of bad lawmaking, with all the elements of bad lawmaking that we've become so used to seeing coming out of this House. So, Mr. Chair, I end my appeal. I think it's become clear to all in this House capable of comprehending simple ideas that this SOP is the right thing to do, that it would improve the quality of lawmaking, and that ultimately it would improve the welfare of all New Zealanders through better public policy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.